Comic-Con is a global event. It's where fans from all walks of life come together to enjoy their passion, a place where judgment isn't made, a place where you can be yourself. Doesn't matter if you love cosplay, video games, or want to meet your favourite stars, Comic-Con is the place to be. The world-famous San Diego Comic-Con started in 1970 with an attendance of only around 100 people. Now, years later in 2016, 135,000 plus people attended this event. But don't just think that this is an American event, because in the same year 133,156 people attended London Comic-Con. The first known British art convention was in 1968. Unlike today's Comic-Con, it was purely about comic books. No cosplays, films, or video games was involved. Over the years, comic books are getting drowned out in British conventions by movies, TV shows, video games, and cosplay. Less and less of the floor space is taken up by comic book stores, inspiring comic book artists, and guests related to the comic book world. Or has it? I've teamed up with some comic book artists to gain their views on this, and this was their opinion.
Nick Brokenshire. I'm the artist for a few series, the Amelia Cole series for IDW, Once and Future Queen series for Dark Horse Comics. I've just finished a story for IDW and Lucasfilm. It's a book called Star Wars Adventures, and I've done one of the stories in it. So that's sort of my main credentials up to now. One of the reasons that I think there aren't as many comics is that I think some organisers, they just aren't maybe aware of how to incorporate comics more. Like I know a few organisers and they are fans of comics. They're not like mega fans, but they like them. And so as a result, they don't necessarily know all the contacts needed, to bring in lots of comics creators and stuff. And it's not necessarily part of their circle, Whereas they can find, people that sell this and that, or they might be more connected to agents that deal with people from Game of Thrones. I think this is already happening, and that is that I'm very happy for there to be these pop culture events. It's great fun. You get to it's a thing that happens only in our time, and it's very cool. It's never happened before. That's groovy. But there's some conventions emerging, such as the one in Oldham. There's obviously the one in the Lakes. There's Spot Bubble. That are pure comics, just creators for people that like comics. And I've noticed that there are a couple of library shows, like the Oldham one, that are sort of popping up, that are focusing purely on the comics. And as long as we've got a few of those emerging, I'm happy, because it just means that we can keep doing what we do. I would just encourage people, to really seek out the comics, because the movies and the TV shows are wonderful, absolutely. I'm an enormous fan of those things. But you only really get to experience the depth of some of these stories when you read the books, you know what I mean? And you just can't beat them. So if you don't happen to be a comic book fan, seek out your comic shop or go to your Waterstones or wherever it is that you get your books and get them, because there's some incredible storytelling going on there, and it's not just the Beano or Batman or Spider-Man. There's incredible things out there. So seek out someone who knows about comics and get them to point you in the direction of some very cool stories. This page here is actually from something that's going to come out in about a year's time, which is the book I'm working on at the moment, called She's Not There, which is it's like a sort of like a horror set in the north of England. So it's a bit of a change of pace for me. It's quite a serious book, and it's done in what's called 9-panel grid. So every single page is apart from the occasional panel, it's done in 9 panels, which is really hard because it's a lot of drawing and it's a particular type of storytelling. Whereas normally, you use different size panels in comics, but this is a very rigid approach. So that's a thing called She's Not There, which is coming out in a while. And these are really old pages from Amelia Cole, my original book. And this is when I was kind of figuring out how to do this stuff. There were some good pages, some tricky pages. This was difficult. The book the story I've just written and drawn, which is a Star Wars story about IG-88, who's a character from Empire Strikes Back. And so I was approached to do a kids book basically for Star Wars Kids Life. Got some prints here. So this is Amelia Cole from my Amelia Cole book. That's a Judge Dredd poster. I've done a bit of work for 2000 AD, I forgot to say that as well. I did a story for them and I've done a cover for them, a Judge Dredd cover. This is a slightly different art style. This is my band, Blues Harvest. We play a lot of geeky events and we play basically like sort of geek music. So like all the Back to the Future music, Ghostbusters, Star Wars. So like during the daytime I sign books and do sketches, and then at night time we go to the party and entertain people. So
it isn't just me that's noticed this change. There's countless articles talking about this subject. Has other forms of entertainment at conventions taken down the comic book business? As movie industries and actors/actresses have money pouring in, does this take money away from comic books? I joined a global Facebook group called The Con Network to ask Comic Con goers their views. Fiona Banks says, I went to Wales Comic Con as a Power Ranger. I wanted to get some Power Ranger comics, but I looked in the halls and couldn't find any comic book sellers. Maybe there isn't enough money in them for sellers to be there. The only place for me to buy physical copies is at Forbidden Planet, which not many cities have. I would expect Comic Cons to have comic books. It was a shame. I still thoroughly enjoyed the event, however, but I would have liked more comics. Ashley Mansfield says, events have tried to include the comic side into them, but they've never been that successful. MCM and LFCC have had very big comic names, but they are never busy, and unlike the media guests, the event doesn't get much money from having them attend. And 9 times out of 10, they don't attract many new attendees. The comic themed shows themselves have enough trouble selling tickets, with the likes of Cow Pow and LSCC going under, with others still not selling out. Billy Fox says, I hate how comic villages are hidden away from the rest of the convention, and a lot of the times they're not properly signposted. Bigger cons in Scotland like MCM and Showmaster don't even get comic book guests at all. Glasgow and Edinburgh Comic Con are the only ones that truly focus on comics. Don't get them mixed up with the overpriced Scotland Comic Con, which has no comic books at all. If you still don't believe me, here's a scroll through 2018's London Comic Con website. And as you can see, the amount of movie/TV guests is greater to the amount of comic book guests. I visited Birmingham Comic Con in early 2018 and I had a chat with 2 very passionate independent comic book creators who are keeping the comic book world alive through storytelling and art.
So my name is Tyrone Beckley and I'm the writer of Parallel Worlds.
I'm Sophia Alou. I'm a part-time illustrator and YouTuber.
So this is just an idea that we had a couple of years back, and we decided that we were going to create a sort of story, and how that was going to manifest we weren't quite sure, but after sort of trying different things, we decided to go down the comic book route, so we created Parallel Worlds. So I'm not a writer by trade, I'm a sort of computer scientist, and my day job involves computers and things like that, so this is really just a sideline, so kind of learned how to write, learned a lot of writing techniques, and luckily my good friend who's not here at the moment is an artist, he's a graphic designer. He'd never done anything like this before. We decided that we would sort of turn our hands to creating a comic book.
Well, I've always loved comics, and I've always loved like fantasy settings and fantasy worlds, and I was always encouraged to draw and have fun and be expressed, and thanks to being at university it really pushed me doing what I do today, and that's just doing comics and enjoying what I do.
So I suppose it's difficult because obviously comic books are probably an American invention. It's something that is very much more ingrained in their culture, but it's something that obviously we are, we've produced a lot of great comic book writers in the past, but yeah, it's a kind of a smaller industry here. So, and I think you can kind of see that reflected in the Comic Village, where there are a number of sort of comic books that aren't really fully fledged comic books. A lot of them are sort of artists who created comic books to actually attend the show rather than for actually the sake of creating a comic book.
Definitely, I find that there's a lack of artists in general at UK events. As a person who follows like a lot of artist YouTubers, a lot of artists online, I always feel kind of disappointed when most of the guests tend to be voice actors or tend to be actors in films, or not really people that I tend to personally know, and I really would love to see that industry being more explored because it's a huge part of the industry, and I think it should be elated and it should be appreciated for what it is.
Well, I think I'd like to see more sort of independent comic book creators, more stalls for independent comic book creators at these kind of events. They're very much obviously driven by film and television and other types of media, video games. But that is the sort of culture we're in, and comic books are very much in the minority. But it'd be great to see more independent comics in. Whether that will happen, it's dictated by the general public, because there's no point having lots of stalls where people, aren't really interested in them, and they'd rather be in another area playing computer games or watching movies. So it's kind of a balance for the organisers, but it would be great to see more independent comic books there.
I really think that I personally love like seeing expressions of like people's work, and I really love that you come into Comic Village and you see everyone's wonderful different art styles, their wonderful different like works that they've done, evening comics and everything. I also love going to the dealer section and seeing all the crafters, and I think it's something that I would personally like to see more of because it's just something I'm more interested in. As well, I think the future for Comic-Con is just keep on improving and getting bigger, and but this year's been phenomenal, so I'm excited to see what the future holds.
It's sad to see the true meaning of Comic-Con lost in today's society, but next time you're at a Comic-Con event, maybe take a stroll around the Comic Village, or pick a book up at one of the comic book stalls. Keep this great art form alive. You never know what adventure you might find.